Merlin Group, a Bitcoin company.
Hi, welcome back to Coding with the Merlin Group. Today, we will do Python basics for real-world programming. Some of the requirements is that you need to have Python installed and obviously have a text editor. Today, we will do interview prep, go over some of the basics, do web scraping with BeautifulSoup, and finally do a data science tutorial with Jupyter Labs. Let us begin. So to start, let's just go over some of the basics real quick. So this is a basic function right here. So we use the def command. We use a greet function. Essentially, we're just utilizing the hello string, and then we're calling this argument for who. And then we're going to run hello colon for the greet. Next, we have a list. So we take three strings, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. Then we reverse that list with the reverse command here. Next, we have a tuple. This tuple is a series of prices, and in here we use a comma, and it's with open brackets. Next, we have a dictionary, and a dictionary is similar to an object. It's the best way, I would say, to have a data set stored. Then next, we're going to use the len command, and essentially what that does is it prints the length of a string or an integer. And what we did was we wanted to hide all of the characters except for the last four. So what we did was we replaced those characters with this string here, multiplied it into the length of the card minus that 4, and then we added that 4 to the end of the card, whereas where we still have card here. So let's move on to utilizing group by and Itertools. So what we have to do, actually, let's create a new project called Itertools. And we are going to import, we're going to say from Itertools, we are going to import group by. And we are going to use group by first. So let's just take a simple function here, payroll, and we'll just have some numbers in here in our list. And we will have one more. And we will say entry level group equals, we're going to use that group by keyword. We're going to take that payroll and we're going to use a lambda. We're going to say key equals lambda. And we're going to say it's going to be less than that 98,000. And we're going to run a for loop. We're going to run and say for key value in that entry level group. And we're going to print the key. And in list format, we're going to print the value. And if we run that, we are going to get false. And we're going to get the numbers 34,000, 98,000, 45,000, and 22,000. That's because these numbers are not entry level, because 98,000 is above that number. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's because I meant to say less than 98,000. Here we go. This is what we wanted. So we have true, 34,000 is entry level. False, 98,000 is not entry level. And true, 45,000 and 22,000 is entry level. Next, we will utilize a generator. And for that, we need to take a data set. So I'm just going to take these order books right here from KuCoin. Shout out to KuCoin. And we will create a function called, let's make it, let's just do Bitcoin trades. And here we will use this yield keyword. And we'll yield another number, 0.00166. And let's just yield one more. And let's get a 0.306. And then we will say T equals Bitcoin trades. And we have an error. Uninspected indentation. Like I said earlier, indentation is one of the most important parts of Python coding. And let me just check one thing and see what my error, see how to fix this error. One of the biggest points in Python and in coding in general is that you have to be able to be great at Googling and be great at finding out what your error is and how to solve it. So it looks like I think I see the error right here. That's weird. Oh, I see the error right here. I forgot to utilize this command. And then here we go. Like I said, one of the biggest problems in coding is that you have to be good at figuring out what the error is. So we run it here in our generator object. We'll generate these values and yield these values. Next, let's do some multiprocessing and threading. So first, let's do some threading. And essentially what multiprocessing is it's a way to run applications concurrently on your device. Processes are instances of a program like Jupyter Labs, for example, which we will work on. Threads are a way to handle subtasks for these processes, and multiprocesses enable you to run multiple child processes concurrently. And let us move on. So let's get started with threading first. So we will do from threading. Let's create a new. Ladies and gentlemen, I made a mistake, but it's okay. Copy paste this and let's edit undo a couple times because we lost the code that we had for Itertools, and I want to post this in the description for you, so I need to go back to Itertools real quick. There we go. And let's clean that up. All right. And let's create another file. And let's call it threading.py. And we were going to import a couple of things. So we were going to import thread and lock. We're also going to import time. So we will begin by setting a database value to 0. Next, let's create a function. Call that function increase and have an argument called lock. And here we go. And let's say global and take that database value. Say we'll use the with keyword, with lock. And we want to make sure to run the argument lock. Okay, yep. It does do it for you. And again, make sure to indent. And we're going to run local copy equals database value. Then we're going to add 1 to that local copy because we're adding a process. And one important thing to note about threading is that you can only run one thread at a time, unlike multiprocessing, which we'll get to, where you can run multiple processes at once. We'll set that time to 0.1 seconds. That is in milliseconds, by the way. And we'll set that database value to our local copy. Now we will do an if statement, exiting out of the function completely. We'll say if name. This is similar to an self.init function with polymorphism, which we will also do in a little bit. if name equals main, then we're going to set that lock to lock. We're going to print start value. We're also going to print that database value. And like I said, it can only run one at a time, so we're going to run our first thread. We're going to set our target to increase from this increase function above. And we're going to set our arguments as lock. Now we're going to run our next thread, doing the same thing. Thread, we're going to set our target to increase again, and it's going to increase by 1. And again, we're going to set our arguments. And then we're going to join our first thread using the join function. We're going to do the same thing for our second thread. And then we're going to use our print to end our value and then end main. End value, printing our database value. And then finally, we are going to print our end main. And given that we don't have any errors, we're going to run it. Cannot import name thread from partially initialized module threading, most likely due to a circular import. So, again, like I said earlier, one of the biggest things about about coding in general, is to be able to deal with error messages. So let's copy paste this error and see what we get in Google. Your file threading.py, which hides the standard. Oop, that's why. So we can't name it threading.py. So let's name it threading tutorial.py, and that should fix the error. And we have a runtime error. Cannot join thread before it is started. Interesting. Let's try it again. And let's also put this in Google now and see what we get. And let's go to our favorite Stack Overflow and see what they say. In thread 1, there can be code which says thread2.join. So I think this is because, like I was saying earlier, threads can only work one at a time. So let's see if that fixes the error. It should. Cannot join thread before it is started. So essentially the thread is being joined here, but it hasn't started yet. So I'm trying to see how we could fix that problem. Let's go to another article and see what they say about it. Let's try GitHub. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to utilize a try block for this thread 1.join here. So we're going to run this try exception here for the join, just to be safe. So we're going to run this try thread 1.join. Print joining thread. Print thread failed. And we'll run a break. Never mind. So let's run it and see if it breaks. So the thread did fail. So this is an internal issue. But this is just a way that you can catch your threads, is to use this try except block here. That's a good check statement that you can do just in case. And to that point, that's why I prefer utilizing multiprocessing instead of threads, because multiprocessing work concurrently instead of threads, which work one at a time. So let us do that next. So let's say multiprocessing tutorial.py. Oh, I'm sorry, echo multiprocessing.py, multiprocessing tutorial.py. And we are going to, from multiprocessing, import process value array and lock. And also there's going to be a queue, because although you can run them concurrently, it's still better to have them work in a line. We're also going to import time, just like we did with threads, and also OS, because we need them to work with our operating system. So let's have a function for adding a user. And we're just going to do a simple function, just to return x plus 1. Going to have processes start as an empty list. We're going to say num of processes. And we're going to equal that to our operating system computer count. And next, we're going to create a process. So we're going to start by doing a for loop. We're going to for in the range of our num process. That again is initially empty. We're going to set p to process, and we're going to set it to target equals add user. And we're going to set processes to p, and we're going to append, which just means add. Append p. Then we're going to do another for loop. That's just going to loop into p, into our processes. And we're going to start our process. Then we're going to loop into process again. And because we can do them concurrently, we're going to join. And there should be no errors, but you never know. Next, we're going to do another function that's going to add a user. And we're going to put a lock on there. We're going to do another for loop. It's going to range into 10. And we're going to set our timer to 0.1 milliseconds. We're going to do another for loop where we are going to loop into the length of the user. Range and length of user. And we're going to take the user of I, and we're going to iterate 1. Then we're going to set our lock. Again, like I said, one important thing about Python is indentation and making sure that our indentations are all in a efficient manner, and it doesn't piss off the compiler. We're going to set our lock.release, and similar to our threading, didn't mean to do that. We're going to exit out completely, and we're going to set our threading with our if name equals main. If I can spell. And we're going to set lock equal to lock. Then we're going to have our shared array equal, that was the term, it's array. That's what I meant to say earlier. An array is similar to a list in Python. And we're just going to set some arbitrary values. We're going to print that array. The array is, and then print our shared array dot value. I'm sorry, nope, that's not true. Looking at my notes here. And then we're going to do our shared user. I. Next, we're going to set, or we're going to use a print statement. And we're going to print the first value, the first user is, and then add our arguments. So, shared user. same thing. And this just means the whole array that's unsized. And then we're going to set our first process. Have target equals add 1. I'm going to set our arguments. Shared user, shared array, and our lock. And we'll do the same thing for our second process. Just copy that. No, it looks a little wonky. And then let's start our first process. Again, making sure to be aware of the indentation. Oop, I didn't mean to do join. P1.start. Start our second process. And just in case, let's put this in a try. Or let's put the join in a try. Oop, didn't mean to do that. And we'll do the same thing with joining our second P2. We'll also put that in a try. Just in case, just so that our project doesn't break on us if it doesn't join. And we'll do the same thing. We'll say unable to join. Fix my grammar. Unable to join. And we'll do the same thing that we did last time. Well, we will print end user is shared user dot value. Ending array is, and we'll do the same thing with shared array, and it be the whole array. And next, let's define a square. Actually, let's run this. Object is not subscriptable in line 30. Oh, that's because I didn't. It's supposed to be shared user dot value. There we go. And let's run it again. the free support. So let's run that, just see what happens. So they're telling us to run free support here. The processes did run though, which is good. Okay, so never mind, don't do that. But the processes did run. So let's do the queue real quick. Let's just create a queue. Actually, you know what, let's just stick, no, we'll do a queue. Let's define a function. Calling it CPU line. And taking some arguments. Numbers and the queue. And we will do a for loop into numbers. And we'll put, using queue.put, that arbitrary number times I. So I times I. Then it will run another function called remove user, or say shorten list, taking in the same arguments, the numbers and the queue, like before. And we will run a similar for loop. So let's just copy paste that for loop. Run that for loop. And again, making sure to indent. And we'll do that queue.put, but we will use a negative. So we will do I times -1. Then, just like we did before, doing if name equals main, numbers equals range of, and we'll just do 1 to 6 for now, or let's just do 1 to 9, taking that queue that we imported, and we'll do a process again. And our process did run for multiprocessing, so we should be good. So we don't need to do a catch this time. P line, forgot about the args. And numbers and queue. And we'll just copy this. And let's paste it. Again, being aware of indentation, P2 equals shorten list. And again, we'll do P1 dot start, P2 dot start, P1 dot join, and P2 dot join. And we should be good, but we'll add a try catch if we're not. And it's an error with multiprocessing itself, not with our code. Let's run that free support line that they're giving us just to see if that helps fix the error. Last time we ran it, they said it was not defined. Yeah, they said it was not defined. So we're not getting an error in the code, but we are getting an error with multiprocessing. So one thing just to note is when you do run multiprocesses and threading, is just to be aware at how you're going to set up your actual processing, your processes. If not, you might run into errors with VS Code. But let's move on to one of my favorite basics, and that is polymorphism. So we'll do it this way. Let's create a project file called polymorphism.py, and we will utilize a self.init function. So first we will call a class. Let's just call it coding languages. And by the way, sorry if I butcher your language in the comments and I don't include your language here. And we run that self.init function. And then we call it self. So let's do self.java, self.javascript, self.rust, self.golang or go, self.c, self.html, self.net, self.ruby, self.sql, self.php, and finally self.python. Like I said, there's probably other languages that I'm missing, but I apologize if I butchered your language. Next, I'm going to call C1 and say C1 equals coding languages, and we just do that for all of our languages. So C2 would be JavaScript, C3 would be Rust, C4 is going to be Golang, C5, and so on. Let's just count how many of these are. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. think this is 11, but I'm not sure. Oh, let's just make sure. C10, C9, C8, 7, and 6, and we were 1 over. Next, we are going to print these same things. So we're going to print C1 dot Java, print C2, and just keep doing this for all of them. C2.JavaScript. C3.Rust. C4.Golang. C5.C, C6.html, C7.Rust, I messed up the order. I'm sorry if the audio is messed up on this video. I'm recording in a different location, so I'm just trying different things. So if the audio is bad, I'll go back to my old location. And just because this is getting redundant, let's just delete some of these. Just make it 8 of them. So we have Java, JavaScript, Rust, Golang, C, HTML, .NET, and Python. And let's run it. Oop, 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 oop. There's an error about Java, so let's see where I messed up. And I'm just pulling up the error that I'm seeing. Again, one of the biggest things in this space is being able to handle error messages, and being able to decode those messages is very important. I'm trying to see what the error message is. Oh, that's why. That's why. This is it. Self.length 3. Goes rust. See, no matter how experienced you are at coding, you're always going to run into these little errors. Self.length 6. Let's do HTML. And let's just close it at 6. And then we do C1 dot lang 1, C2 dot lang 2, C3 dot lang 3, C4 dot lang 4, and so on. And that should fix the error. And there we go. Next, let's move on to some practice problems. Oh, I needed to have that. It's not a big deal. We'll pull up some CSVs later. So I advise utilizing Project Euler. I'll post that in the description. So to begin, the sample problem, first one we have is if we list all natural numbers below 10 that are multiples of 3 or 5, we get 3, 5, 6, and 9. The sum of these multiples is 23. Find the sum of all the multiples of 3 and 5 below 1,000. So let's copy and paste this problem. And let's create a file called, actually let's create a folder called sample problems. CD into that folder. And say problem1 dot py. And problem1 dot py, here we go. So let's comment. Let's do a triple comment. And let's copy and paste the question. And let's get started. So all right. So the first thing that we're going to do, one second, let me pull up my notes on this problem. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to define the main problem. And we're going to set the total to 0. Then we're going to have number to sum. And we're going to set that to 1,000 because that's the number that we're looking for. We're going to do a for loop and range for that num to sum and that number to sum value. And we're going to do an if statement where if the multiple, which is this ampersand, this percentage sign, 3, this means that it's a multiple if the ampersand, percentage sign, or some people call it ampersand, some people call it percentage sign, equals 0, or I percentage sign 5 equals 0. Then we're going to iterate plus 1. And we're going to print the total. And keeping in mind, to exit the function, you have to unindent, and let's run it. And these are all the numbers that we have. Okay, let's go to the next problem. Let's do problem number 8. The 4 adjacent digits in a 1,000-digit number set that have the greatest product are 9 times 9 times 8 times 9 equals 58,032. Find the 13 adjacent digits in a 1,000-digit number that have the greatest product. What is the value of this product? So, didn't mean to do that. So, let's echo problem 8.py. And let's go into our problem. And 1 second, let's copy paste the problem again, just like we did in the last one. And just like last time, we'll triple comment. And next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take that large data set and make it a more workable number. So we're going to set it to x. And like I said again, we're going to triple comment. Again, I apologize for the noises. Recording this audio in a different location. I don't know if it's better or worse. Definitely will find out, and I highly encourage you to let me know if the audio is not ideal. So we're going to replace that by getting rid of the line. replace it with a string. Oop. Okay, next, let's just define that x. All right. Let's define the function main. Set that largest so far equal to 0. And set current equal to 1. And in this problem, we're going to use some nested for loops. So we're going to set our first value as how many. Let's just do how many equal that to 13, which is the variable that we're looking for. And let's just comment that out and say variable searching for. Then we're going to create a for loop where we're going to do I in range, and we'll do it in the range of how many. Then we're going to nest another for loop j into the range of how many again. And we'll do current, iterating that times integer of x I plus j. And we're going to exit out of that first for loop. Do an if statement. If current is less than largest so far, then largest so far is going to equal current. And then we're going to set current equal to 1, and we're going to end the loop. And we're going to print largest so far, and in the function there, and we should get the answer. And moving on to web scraping. So we're going to use BeautifulSoup, and I'm just going to showcase the template for any kind of web scraping. So from BS4, you're going to import BeautifulSoup. Then you're going to import requests. You're going to do HTML text equals requests dot get, and I'm going to copy in this address. And we're going to print that HTML text, and we should get a 200, and we do. The reason why we get a 200, by the way, is because sometimes with APIs, especially with .orgs, it might be harder for you to get that information, or it just means that the information is on the way. So what I normally do when I web scrape is that I will web scrape the whole entire document, and then I will utilize group by and Itertools to pinpoint certain elements of my scrape. Next is data science, and I actually put this in the wrong file, but it's not a big deal. I meant to put that here. And last but not least let's do some data science and work with some CSVs. By the way, if this video gets 50 likes, I will do a full data science tutorial with Jupyter Notebook. 50 likes and I will do a full data science tutorial with Jupyter Notebook. Moving on. So we are going to import pandas as PD. And we are going to take our data frame that we're going to get from our cities.cv, and we're going to do PD read CSV cities.csv, and we're going to print that out. And print it out. And there we go. And now let's showcase the first values by doing df.head. And now let's show the last values by doing df.tail.